Libertarian Viewpoint, and I'm your host, Sue Jeffers. Libertarianism is all about liberty. Liberty is the exercise of freedom that doesn't impinge on the rights of others. We have all heard the constant drum roll of government solutions. The purpose of this show is to allow you to see for yourself why non-government solutions are a better alternative. Today's guest is my friend Bob Odden. What got you involved in advocating non-government solutions to problems?
I've always been interested in helping other people and trying to figure out what would make people's lives better. Back in high school, I was chosen to be on a debate on world hunger, overpopulation, and housing or something, and at another high school. So I read 6 books on it, all written by liberals. And the amazing conclusion of all 6 books was, well, we don't know how to fix the problem, but we should spend more money. Yeah, I mean, we've heard that scenario
We've
before.
heard that scenario over and over again.
But, you know, in reading those 6 books, though, they didn't leave out stuff conveniently, evidently, because, you know, they were mentioning Formosa, and Taiwan now. But, you know, right after the you could call it the Civil War, whatever, in China, where some of the Chinese fled with, was it Chiang Kai-shek, I think, over to the island of Formosa, you know, millions of people or whatever. Well, you know, we didn't really give them any aid. So when they got over to the island, you know, I mean, it was like a total breakdown of the government or whatever. They didn't have all these rules and regulations and everything in place, licensing and all that stuff, that would impede people from, you know, pursuing a livelihood. So these people were free to do things pretty much what they wanted, as long as they weren't harming other people. And so without really any foreign aid at all, this nation of millions of people, you know, became a top economic power. You know, whereas if you looked at like India, they were talking about India, they were saying, well, gee, you know, we ship the grain over there, but, you know, they don't have enough grain facilities to unload it from the ships. And then once they unload it from the ships, you know, they're not watertight, so they mold, and the rats and stuff, they don't believe in killing them over there. And so they eat a lot of the grain, and then we can't really ship it out because there are not enough rail cars. And most villages, like probably 95% of the population doesn't even live within, you know, maybe 50 miles of a railroad. So how do you get it to people?
What was the government solution? More money.
More money. You know, like, oh, we don't know what to do, you know. I mean, but the big thing was holding India back, and they changed it a few years ago. But, you know, if you invested money in India, you couldn't take your money out. So why would anyone want to invest in India if you couldn't take your money out of the country? I mean, makes sense, right? So, you know, they didn't get any investors the money that they needed to get their economy going. So that one little simple law that the government enacted prevented them from becoming
a powerhouse.
Yeah. So, you know, we didn't need the money. They didn't need the grain. Because, you know, if farmers have money and get fertilizer and all these other things, well, then they can grow crops. And those crops can feed people locally. And so, therefore, they don't need railroads, and they don't need roads, and they don't need ships. It was a simple thing. And yet the authors of these 6 books couldn't see it.
And you learned that lesson, that valuable lesson, in high school.
In high school, on my own.
People much older than high school age that haven't figured this out, including the authors of your 6 books.
Well, yeah, right. Esteemed authors.
esteemed authors. And then where did you go next?
Well, I went off in a lot of different directions, but in one of the directions I went, I discovered what they call jury nullification. And, people are always asking, well, I'm just a single person, can I really influence things? Can I make things better on my own? Is there any way that I can do that? And because they see everything as being absolutely overwhelming. And yet there is, one thing for sure, I mean, outside of elections and so forth, that you can do as an individual that has a huge impact. And that is get on a jury. In this country, you have a right. The judge will tell you, if you're on a jury and you're in a trial, that you judge based on the facts, and you apply the law to that, and you look at the intent of the accused. So you're looking at those three things, but there's a fourth thing, and that is that you can judge the law. So if there's a statute on the books that says, you can't accuse the government of corruption. That's illegal, even if what you're saying is true. Then you, as being on the jury, you can just not look at that law. I mean, you just don't take it into account, and you acquit, or in other words, find the person not guilty, because the law is just too egregious. So as a juror, I mean, juries have gotten rid of basically slavery in a number of states just because they acquitted people who were trying to free slaves. They got rid of prohibition because they wouldn't prosecute people for making liquor. They've done a lot of great things through juries, and so if you can get on a jury, that is your right is to vote your conscience, and if how put it, I know one case in particular I was just thinking of where the person was tried in the state of California and was following California law, which differed from federal law. California law made what he was doing legal. Federal law said it was illegal. And
there are a lot of laws like that.
Well, the feds arrested him under Bill Clinton, and they neglected to tell the jury that what he was doing was legal under California law. They wouldn't allow it. They strictly forbid the defense from saying that. And then, they can do that. And then
that seems wrong in and of itself.
Well, but they, how put it, they won a certain verdict.
Got it.
And they didn't like what this person was doing because he was showing people, I guess, how to do things that the federal law considered to be illegal, but again, which were illegal under California law. So the feds just didn't want this to be known. And then they didn't tell him what the sentence would be. Well, the sentence, I put it, turned out to be basically a death sentence.
Oh my gosh.
And all it was is simple marijuana usage. There's no reason why anyone should be put to death for something like that.
Right.
In this case, he had AIDS, and the only way he could keep down his medication was to smoke marijuana. But the feds said, you can't do that. So as part of the sentencing agreement, he was tested every day for marijuana. Otherwise, he could have gone to prison and not gotten his AIDS medication. They would have withheld that in prison, which would have been a death sentence.
That should make people really, really angry.